And welcome to the Hoop Heads podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here with my co-host Jason Sokol tonight, and we just watched the Milwaukee Bucks
Mike,
completely
I'm gonna be honest with you. I
dismantle.
didn't watch it. I
Well,
watched the
I just
first.
watched.
I watched the first quarter, and I said I am uninterested in this game, this meaningless game in the NBA grand scheme of things. And I turned on the match and watched Charles Barkley talk about golf for 2 hours. Mike, I'm not lying to you when I said that. Golf, because they had the Live versus the PGA Tour, that has to kill the NBA that Barkley is literally competing against this championship game on TNT with golf. And I'm going to bet you, Mike, that the ratings for the golf is going to be higher than the ratings for the NBA Cup game.
No wonder the ratings are down, man. It's NBA fans like you that are going to drive this league into submission.
Listen, did you see what I think I sent you the thing that happened on Saturday night's games? The
Yeah,
WWE Saturday night main event, they brought it back for the first time in like 10, 15 years. It destroyed the NBA Cup ratings. And I watched the NBA Cup games on Saturday, so I'm not to blame on that. Wasn't even close. Wasn't even close, Mike.
was it the Hulkster versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan?
No, I don't even know who was wrestling. I know actually I know
George
Cody.
George the
Nope.
Animal
The
Steel.
only wrestler I know that wrestled was Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens because I saw a TikTok about it. That was about it. And Triple H got involved at the end. So, do you know Triple
I
H?
got
Do you know the
nothing, man.
name Triple H?
I got nothing. I mean,
You
I know that name, but he could walk down the street. I wouldn't know who it is.
you wouldn't know him now because if you did see a picture of him back in the day, he had really long hair, but now he's shaved his head. So
All right. Well, yeah, I can't abide by pro wrestling.
yeah, no. I watch it when The Rock is around, and that's about it. That's the only time I watch it. Like, but and by watch it I mean I watched it on TikTok. That's really what I do. So, anyways, back to what we really are here to talk about, the NBA Cup. Here's what I'm going to say, Mike. I want to go on the record and say that I did text Mike this morning because we have our NBA wins pool, and there was a point up for grabs here tonight because I had the Bucks and Mike had the Thunder. So I texted him in good faith, make sure that before I knew my Darvin Ham undefeated Darvin Ham baby in the NBA Cup led at Milwaukee Bucks got secured the victory. That if I didn't want to be accused of like trying to point shave or something, so I said, Mike, are we counting the win tonight? And Mike said, yes, we are. It has to count. So I'm going to put a little like extra column and just add a +1. And then at the end of the day, Mike will add it because it's not obviously counting as a win. So what I have to say to you, Mike, is last week I think you had gotten it down to 12, right? In the wins pool.
I think so. I think that's what the number was.
Well, with my victory tonight, and once again, there weren't a lot of games this week because of this whole thing, which that's another conversation. I am now up 14, so my lead but grew by 2, Mike. So stay
All right.
pretty sedentary. But as far as the game is concerned, let me just what I'm going to tell you. I saw at the end of the first quarter that it was a good game. I watched the first quarter, it was good. I watched the second quarter, it was all right. It was good. And then the third quarter was just the Thunder looked terrible. They looked god awful. They looked like a team. Bill Simmons tweeted this out, so I'm going to not take any credit for this. Bill Simmons said they looked like a bunch of 21-year-olds who spent 5 days in Vegas partying up in the third and the fourth quarter. They were dragging. And I'm going to be honest with you. Like I had it on the background with I don't know if you know, ESPN3 ran a cast where there was no announcing. It was just them playing. Did you see they were doing this?
I did not.
I kind of liked it. It was nice because I didn't have to hear someone rambling on and on. And I know Richard Jefferson was on, so maybe he would have had something poignant to say. But it was pretty cool to just watch the game and like hear things. But I don't know. I'm kind of, I'm going back to my statement like 2 or 3 weeks ago that I think the NBA Cup needs to go to a 30-team bracket style tournament. And because I think that would interest That literally means that anyone could win. You have the pool play. You then take the top team in the West and the top team in the East by record and point differential. They get a bye. You have the other 28 teams battle it out in the first round. You get down to 14. Then you introduce the 1 seed and the 2 seed. And I think the way to incentivize it is that you reseed after the first round. Or I mean, we can hem and haw over that anyways, because I think reseeding would make sense if you can logistically figure it out. The lowest seeded team gets to play the 1 seed, because I think they don't want to get penalized for having a bye, right? Like if say a low seed wins and then you have to play like the middle of the road team in the conference, that's while you still should handle it, you should get a incentive for paying. But regardless, I think they need to involve all the teams. So this whole pool play, the top 8 teams, no one cares. And listen, like we said, the worst case scenario happened. I mean, I don't know if just looking at the pictures and looking at the video, like the stadium was what, half full? Like,
it looked pretty empty when the game started. It looked pretty empty in the lower bowl. It seemed like it filled up a little bit as the game went on. There wasn't a lot of crowd shots, and because of the weird lighting in there, it's hard to tell exactly. But you would have to think that attendance is down. Obviously, last year with the Lakers, where their fans can make the journey to Las Vegas by car or by plane, it's a very, very short trip. And so
they say
I
the
think the
attendance
Lakers
baloney, garbage. No way I believe this. They said the attendance was 18,519. There's no way they had 10,000 people in the stadium. There's no way.
You saw where they were considering, or there was talk, or something came out that they were going to look at having the semifinals at home arenas next year, as opposed to bringing all 4 teams to Vegas.
Well, in that case, they shouldn't have it in They shouldn't have just the finals in Vegas either. You know what they should do? They should have the finals wherever the NBA. Well, you don't know where the NBA finals is going to be. You should have the finals where the All-Star game is going to be, or something like that. Like, don't go to Vegas just for the sake of going to Vegas for one game. That's dumb.
Well, here's the thing.
Or go to or have it a roaming site. Like, go to Seattle for a game, or go.
Well, or just have it at the home, have it at the teams with whichever team has the best overall record, host it there. Do you think this game would have had more excitement if it was at OKC tonight?
Oh, for sure.
If you had an OKC home crowd, would it have been a more entertaining product to watch on TV? Probably. I mean, I guess the idea of it being a neutral site is taken away. But I guess it comes down to, for me, what's the purpose of what this thing is trying to be? And I think one thing that's interesting, and I don't know if it's good or bad, and obviously for you watching golf, this didn't impact you in any meaningful way. But on a lot of nights when the NBA is playing, there's multiple games. And so your attention as an NBA fan can be divided. If your home team's not playing, you're watching or paying attention to 5 or 6 games, or 2 or 3 games, or 7 or 8 games, or whatever it is, versus tonight, if you're an NBA fan, you're dialed into one game. So there's that piece of it that makes it feel more like an event. I mean, that's one of the problems with Major League Baseball, with NBA basketball compared to the NFL, where there's just so many games that they all bleed into each other, and it's hard for any one regular season game to carry any meaningful weight compared to any other one. And the idea of this having a little bit more weight, I do think that when you look at the schedule and you only see one game and it's the quote championship of the NBA Cup, does that mean anything? No. Will that ever mean anything?
No,
I find it hard to believe that I find it hard to believe at any point that players are going to care, that it's going to be a meaningful notch on somebody's belt, that the Lakers are going to claim that LeBron won the first NBA Cup, or Giannis is going to have that on his resume. We're a long, long way away from that.
Listen, Darvin Ham's 10-0, Mike.
There you go. Darvin Ham. It means a lot.
Actually, 12-0 probably.
Means a lot to Darvin Ham.
they have 4 pool play games. No, he's 10-0, right? 4 pool plays games.
I
No,
think
12-0,
that's right.
12-0, 12-0,
12
12-0.
Okay. So
That's pretty
anyway,
impressive.
I think we're a long way away from anybody really caring about it in that way. I think that it is something that the players just can compete against one another because they know that the game is on national TV. There is some money at stake, not so much for your Giannis's and your Dame Lillards, but for the guys at the back end of the roster, the money that they're making puts a little bit of pocket change, in their coffers. But I don't. It's a manufactured event that I'm not sure what the true meaning of it
Yeah,
is.
Mike.
Now, all that being said, I'm not against it. I think that there's little tweaks that they can make. I think your proposal, although I'd like to see it, I don't think it's ever going to happen simply because of the logistical nightmare of trying to figure out
They're a
who schedule
multi-billion-dollar
arenas.
company, Mike. They could figure it out.
They could if they really wanted to, but I don't think the motivation
Take
is.
them back to the bubble.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think the motivation is there for them to do it in that way. I do think that by moving the games to the home arenas, and even if you want to have the final somewhere in Vegas, I guess
How cool,
it's.
Mike? Let me further expand upon my idea of doing the
Oh,
full.
listen, I think your idea is good. I would
This
like to see
let's just make it.
the
Let's
single
make it
elimination
December.
tournament.
Let's make it December Madness, Mike. Listen, let's make it December Madness, an all-day affair. An all-day affair. You start games, okay? Now that the college football bowls are all screwed up, you start the game the second week of December. There's no game. There's one football game on a Saturday. It's Army Navy, okay? Listen, if you have NBA games and the only thing you have to compete against is Army Navy on a Saturday, come on now, you're gonna do something. Listen, you run all 8 games, or you could run all 15 games. Forget it. Let's just do it all in one day on Saturday. You can have CBS, TNT, True TV, TBS, just like March Madness. Have 4 games going at once. You get the simulcast. You get the NFL Red Zone situation. Listen, AM Silver, pay me. I'll figure this out for you. Okay.
Wait, but hold on. Wait. Stop. But even if we do all this, you were watching golf tonight.
Mike, if
Are you going to
Mike,
care? Are you going to care about this? If this is a, does it matter? Here's what it comes down to. Does the format matter? Does it matter at all?
it
If it's a single elimination tournament and we get to a championship in December, that really means nothing. That's a manufactured,
I don't know.
doesn't
You're
have
Mike.
any
It's a
real
good point.
bearing
It's
on
a good
anything.
point. And
Doesn't matter.
it's a good.
That's what I'm
Listen,
wondering.
but I'm just telling you. I think it would. The pool play stuff it was because you get to see the funky courts is interesting, but I'm just telling you that the one day of March Madness where you have all the teams playing except for the top 2 seeds, I think that would be intriguing. If you're like, okay, we're starting all the games at 12, we're gonna have 3 or 4, or all the teams are playing in their home game, but we have 3 or 4 games going at a time. You go 12. It's just like you follow basically. You go 3 games at a time, Mike, and you follow the Christmas Day schedule. They do 5 games, right? You play 15 games. You have 3 games going at once. You have each game starting at the same time. You have a game starting at 12. You have a game starting at 2:30. You give them 5, 7:30, and 10. I think this is interesting. Adam Silver, please listen to my idea. I'm just telling you. I think it would.
Is this format better for gambling?
Oh hell yeah! Come on now. This is another thing.
I don't know.
You could parlay. You could parlay a bunch of stuff. You could all the teams are playing, and I know they have games days throughout the year that majority or all the teams are playing, but you have all but 2 teams playing. You means you've got all the stars playing in a day essentially. Obviously, I don't know who would have been Oklahoma City. No one's betting their money on Oklahoma City. There's no big. I mean, maybe Shea. And then who was Milwaukee the top seed in the East when it all got shakeout, or they?
They were because they were undefeated, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you the first round you have Milwaukee and you have Oklahoma City sitting out, there's still so many teams to bet money on. I mean, I'm just telling you that. Listen, I'm trying to help you out, Adam Silver. I'm trying to drum up your ratings. You get a guy. You
got to watch his product. Then you can't be watching golf.
Listen, I
on
would
the night
watch
of
the product. I
championship
would
of the
watch the
NBA
product.
Cup.
Listen, I would watch the product on this day for sure. Here's my idea, Mike. Instead of NFL Red Zone with Scott Hansen, we have NBA Red Zone, and it's literally Chuck, Kenny, Shaq. And we'll say, guys, I know you're working for ESPN now, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to put you on. You're going to sit on your ass all day, and you're going to watch from 12 to midnight. You watch 12 hours of basketball, and we're just going to put it on the screen, and you guys can talk about whatever you want for the 12 hours while you're watching the games, and we'll jump between games. You can break things down. You can do your little shenanigans at halftime, like whatever you want to do. But you guys get the floor. You 12 hours of simulcast, those guys just talking basketball, talking hoops live at the same time. I think this is a genius idea that I just came up with while we're recording this episode. And Adam Silver, I'm willing to offer more of my ideas to you if you would like. And maybe I'll be then interested in your product, because that's the other mistake. They had the game on ESPN. I can't wait to next year when the Inside the NBA is host at the finals and stuff. That's going to be way better. I'm just telling you, that's going to be way better. The TNT product to me is way better than the ESPN product, and I can't stand Doris Burke. I want to pound my head against the wall when she's talking. So I don't know how you feel. I don't know how you, but the travesty of firing Van Gundy and
Jackson
and Mark Jackson. Come on now. I don't know. I'm trying to help the product so that I want to watch it more. Like, I like watching the local. I like watching the Cavs stuff. I like watching anything on TNT. ESPN, I'm kind of over, if I'm being honest, Mike.
All right, I would agree. TNT's coverage is better. I do agree that a day of wall-to-wall NBA in a March Madness style format would be fun. I do think that the single elimination tournament would be interesting. I still think that if you're the NBA, you're dealing with problem in that you've created something that is manufactured and you can't necessarily get players, teams, fans to care about it. It's kind of like you and I when the NBA Cup started with the very first set of games that counted towards the cup. I wanted the Cavs to win. I was hopeful that the Cavs would make it into the 8-team tournament. But when they didn't, and then you saw that instead of playing 2 games in Vegas, potentially, instead they got to play the Wizards and the Nets, which turned out to be 2 victories.
Plus,
that I wasn't that disappointed that the Cavs weren't there. And so that, to me, as an NBA fan, not forget about my fandom for the Cleveland Cavaliers, as an NBA fan, that makes me question the validity of what I'm watching, that there are fans and teams out there that don't care if they're there. And in fact, maybe
it's better that they're not
thinking that they're better off that they're
well,
not.
And that's the thing, Mike. Here's what I'm going to be honest with you. Here's what they should do in the NBA is, if you're not in the NBA Cup Finals, they should find someone who is close to your record, and you should have to play a game against them. That would be way more. I mean, do I, as a Cavs fan, want them to have to play the Celtics and play the Magic, for instance? I mean, the Magic right now, well, they were in it, so that's not a good example. So the Celtics and, I don't know, the Heat, the Knicks, okay, like something like that, because those teams, at least the combo, like the Celtics played the Wizards again for the 3rd time this season already. Okay, we played, we played Brooklyn for the 2nd time, and we played the Wizards for the 3rd time. I mean, listen, I'm not trying to like complain that we got easy dubs, because that's really good for the Cavs and they've tied the franchise record and all that jazz. But the NBA should really be like, listen, we're going to put you guys put the rest of the guys teams against like similar abilities to make it at least comparable, I guess. Like,
well, it would it would disincentivize you from not wanting to be a part of the NBA Cup if that triple negative statement makes any sense,
But
right?
but you're saying is this: teams wouldn't purposely like say that they have a chance to squeak in and be like the 4 seed. They wouldn't purposely lose a game or not score points because now they're going to have to still play someone who's competent, unlike the Cavs who had to play. And I want to be clear: I don't think the Cavs intentionally lost either of those games. I think they just lost those games. But there might be a team that is like, oh man, I could play the Wizards and the Pelicans, or I
Well,
could go
well,
and I could play.
you might not fight back right in the fourth quarter if point differential matters. If you get down in a game and you'd have an opportunity, hey, if we make it, if we can keep the margin of victory or the margin of loss in this case under 15, then we can advance. And maybe you just are like, let's just sit our guys, and if we
Yeah.
lose by more than 15, we're not that concerned about it. And I think that's an inherent problem that is not solvable in the immediate future. I don't know if it's ever solvable. To me, it still
Well, it's
feels
solvable,
like,
Mike. You have a March Madness tournament
yeah,
where
I
they
mean,
play each other,
but
and then
okay,
the losing teams, Mike. That I listen. This is easy. This is easy. Then the losing teams go into a losers bracket, and they just play teams in similar seeds. That's all that has to happen. It's not. This is not super complicated, Mike. I'm telling you, it could be done. And then you won't have this situation where a good team is playing a bad team that's not outside the tournament.
yeah, but it still comes down to how much do the players care? And here's what I'll say. What's interesting, I guess, is when I look at it from a fan perspective and I look at it from the outside. So I'm looking in at the Bucks playing the Thunder tonight, and part of me is like, do these teams really care
Well,
about
Giannis sure
who
looked like he
wins?
cared
Do
at the
they?
end of the game.
Right. Look, I get it. And part of me, this is me looking at it as a fan saying, why should they care? It's made up. It doesn't really matter. But yet, I think about it. If I was playing, so like as a college basketball player, or now as a high school basketball player, oftentimes you play in an in-season tournament, right? So as a college player, every year, usually we would go to two in-season tournaments with four teams, and you'd fly to a place, and two teams would play, and the two winning teams would play in the
Would you
championship
fly
game,
to
and the two
Nashville,
losing
maybe,
teams.
Mike?
I would, I would. No, I flew to. I think we played one in Tennessee, Chattanooga once,
Oh,
but
T.O. there? Was T.O. there? Yeah.
he was not there. But anyway, I guess my point is that those tournaments essentially are meaningless. Now, again, I know I'm not an NBA player, and I know that the level of basketball that we were playing at Kent was not the same as the level of basketball that they're playing in the NBA. But the fact remains that I didn't try any more or less in a game that was in an in-season tournament game than I did for a regular season game. I was playing and trying and doing my best to win every single game that we played that I stepped on the floor. And I'm not saying there aren't exceptions to that in the NBA because of the volume of games that these guys play and how meaningful those games are or aren't. But you can't tell me before these two teams suited up. Again, this is me talking now as somebody who played the game or coached the game. I'm betting that everybody on that Milwaukee roster and the Milwaukee coaching staff wanted to win that game tonight. And I would say the same thing for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, is there as much, what's the word I'm looking for? Is there as much focus as there would be if you're trying to win an NBA championship? Probably not. But I still think those players wanted to win. And I think when you look at the vast majority of regular season games, sometimes there are things that teams do by sitting players or whenever they get down and they know they have to travel the next night. And so there are considerations where maybe the situation forces the team not to give 100% in a given moment. But I feel like for the most part, when players step onto the floor, regardless of what we sometimes say about guys who are load managing or this or that or whatever. I think
Constantly getting
98%.
injured. Constantly
I
getting
think
injured, aka Joel Embiid again.
yeah. another facial injury. But I just think 98% of the time when an individual player or team steps out on the floor, like those players and teams they're trying to win. And although the NBA Cup is made up and it is, for lack of a better way of saying it, meaningless as far as like a player's legacy or as far as what a team has accomplished or how that's going to matter. I just, I still think that the players are going to compete and try hard. I think the bigger question is from a fan standpoint, what's going to make us as fans care
And not
about
watch
the
golf.
NBA Cup? Yeah, not watch golf. What's going to make us not watch golf? And I don't know the answer to that. I do know that because there was only one game tonight, like I dialed in on the Bucks Thunder game much more than if this was just a regular season Bucks Thunder game. I just paid more attention to it. So
I don't know. I don't know what
I
to
don't know
tell
what
you,
the
Mike.
yeah, I don't know. I just don't know what the format is that makes it more interesting. What makes the championship game, if you get to the end of a single elimination tournament with all the teams, is that championship game of the NBA Cup any more interesting than the championship game of this format of the NBA Cup? I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure it is. I like the
Yeah.
idea of having a single elimination tournament. I really do. But I don't know that that matters. To me, I think what they eventually get to is you just have, because the idea of group play, right, is to have, you're trying to balance out the teams from the previous season and records. And so that all of the group plays, all those pools are pretty even theoretically, at least coming into the season. But then nobody knows who's in what pool. And I think that takes away from it. I think
Oh,
eventually, if you
yeah.
want to, I think you go to the divisions. I like the different courts because you can tell that it's an NBA Cup game. I think that was a good innovation. I think if you go to the divisions, you sort of keep the format the way it is and you eliminate the Vegas part of it and you just put it in somebody's home arena. To me, that's where it's going to end up, I think.
Yeah. So I got two funny tweets to share with you. Well, one's not really funny. Giannis won the NBA Cup MVP. Big shocker. Okay. This is a good one from a guy named AKA Mort, who I have met in person once or twice. Podcast guy around here, or Twitter guy. I met him on Twitter many years ago, and then we met at a Cavs game once. He wrote, "The Lakers fired a coach who has won every NBA Cup ever held for a podcaster." That's a quality tweet.
I
That's
gotta
a
get the
qual.
dog. I gotta get the dog. Hold
Okay.
on. Oh, I just let you out, man. Seriously, you just went out. You had a good streak going, but you weren't out of it for a long time. So, right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Fin-
You want? Are we ready to move on from the NBA Cup, Mike? Are you ready?
why don't you finish? Why don't you finish your point about the? I guess we finish the point about the tweet.
No, I mean, is there anything you have to add about the tweet?
It's a good
I was.
tweet, man. I don't know. JJ Redick, is he a coach? Is he a podcaster? Is he a good coach? The jury's still out. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I know that you had the Lakers winning the NBA championship this year, but I don't
No,
think
I
that's
did
going to
not.
happen.
I
So,
did not. I did not
come
have them
on,
winning.
no, I thought you
No,
had him. I thought you had him right up there, ready to win the title.
no.
It remains to be seen. I think the jury's still out on JJ Redick. I guess from an NBA Cup standpoint, I think we just can we talk about these two teams in the context of first of all the NBA Cup slightly, but then more importantly in the context of where they slot overall in the league and how we feel about these two teams. I don't know which team you want to start with.
I mean, obviously, let's start with Milwaukee because that's more. Listen, Milwaukee is a good team. They've turned it around. Congrats to Doc Rivers for turning the ship, right in the ship. Okay, I still don't trust Doc Rivers in the playoffs. I still don't trust Dame Lillard in the playoffs. I don't trust Giannis to stay healthy for the playoffs at this point. I mean, what has it been 2 years in a row? He's gone down with an injury and they've lost. I if I'm the Cavs, I mean, I'm not. I think I picked for the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know if you have that paper handy, but I'm pretty sure I picked Milwaukee and Boston. I, I think I picked Milwaukee, Boston, or Cleveland, Boston, or I don't remember,
Let me
but
see. Let me see what I can find. Let me see what I can find.
but I think the Cavs are a better team than Milwaukee. I mean, obviously they've got a better record, but um, I'm not super afraid of them because I don't know who's guarding Donovan Mitchell and who's guarding Darius Garland the way he's playing right now. I just don't know, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I think I think between Mobley and Allen they can contain Giannis now, Mike. I for some reason feel that way. I just contain him enough to get the victory. I just don't. I don't see a path for Milwaukee
The
to.
Cavs are as well. The Cavs are as well equipped to deal with Giannis as anybody, but I think that his performance tonight and in the semis and over the course of this season. Look, I know that you mentioned it a second ago that he hasn't been healthy for two playoff runs, but I mean, he he was as dominant tonight as he's been. I know he only scored 26, but 19 boards, 10 assists. The defense that he was anchoring for Milwaukee looked very Bucksy tonight. They looked far better than I've seen them look in the games that I've seen them play this season. They looked far, far better. And it helps again that Oklahoma City was absolutely horrendous from 3-point land and ended up 5 for 32. So anything that you're doing defensively, if the other team shoots 5 for 32, you probably have something to do with that. But that's also it's a make or miss league type of situation. But Giannis was dominant tonight. He was fantastic on both ends of the floor. And when you look at that roster, I mean, it's not the greatest roster. And defensively, we've talked all season about how they just have a hard time containing guys on the perimeter. And look, Shea didn't have his best game, but when you start talking about the MVP, and I mean, obviously Shea is right there, Giannis is right there, Jokic is right there. I think those are probably the top three. But when you start looking at sort of a statement game, I think Giannis had sort of a statement game in terms of the MVP. Now, I don't know where Milwaukee finishes. I think it's going to be hard for Giannis to win it, but he's certainly made a case for people start thinking about, right? Because the MVP ends up being a narrative. It ends up being like a snapshot of, hey, what about this game? What about that game? And when you start talking about referencing at the end of the season, the MVP and how it's going to be voted out. Now, look, if Milwaukee falls off a cliff and ends up 10th in the Eastern Conference, it's not going to matter. But if Milwaukee creeps up into the top 4 in the East, which they very, very well could, and Oklahoma City stays near the top of the West, when you look back at this game and what Giannis did versus what Shea did, and again, this is a big moment for Oklahoma City only
But
because they
dad,
don't
but
really
dad,
have.
or not dad, Mike, this game doesn't count for anything, right?
It doesn't. No, no, I'm not. But I'm not trying to say that like that statistically this. It's not like Giannis scored 80 in a game and it's going to increase his
So
scoring.
wait,
I'm just
wait.
saying.
Here's the question: this doesn't count statistically. Are you allowed to count this game towards MVP because no one else has had an
Well,
83rd game?
I can count it in my
You can
mind,
count it if
right?
you want, but
If I'm a voter, I can take it into account. Look, Oklahoma City, Milwaukee
listen, Mike,
has
no one else is. Jokic
Milwaukee
is
and
winning
Giannis
the
has a
MVP,
tracker.
Mike. Jokic is winning the MVP if he keeps having the statistical season that he's having. I don't care if the Nuggets finish in fifth, sixth in the West. You, there's no way he doesn't win the MVP. He's his per is
No, I get
ridiculous.
it. I get it. Statistically, he's been incredible. So Giannis has been incredible statistically, not as incredible
I was
as
nowhere.
Jokic.
He's leaps like Jokic is way ahead of him statistically in his minutes on the floor, and when Giannis is off the floor, Milwaukee isn't completely devoid of abilities.
Look, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to
You're
downgrade
stumping for
Nikola
Giannis to win
Jokic.
the MVP. Come on, Mike.
I'm not stumping for him to win the MVP. I'm saying that there has been plenty of buzz that Shea is right near the top with
No, not to me.
Jokic. No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. To me, the two best players in the league are still Jokic and Giannis.
Honestly,
And
I'd have put Mitchell ahead of Shea right now. And Mitchell's stats are not nearly as good as Shea's, but just as far as like Mitchell, I don't know, Mitchell just I feel like he just has the ability to defer, and once again, maybe that's the roster that's surrounding him. And but like that's the night. I don't want to turn this back into a Cavs conversation. That's the nice thing about the Cavs is I feel like on any given night, someone else is going to take the mantle, right? Like it just feels like we're not relying on him to have 40 every night or 35 every night. We're not relying on Mobley to have like 27 every single night. But I just feel like to me, Mitchell as a floor general and as a leader, I mean, it's not, and I don't want to say that I'm diminishing Shea's ability or capacity to do so, but I just feel like, I mean, I don't know. And maybe you disagree with me on that, but I just at this point in the season, I mean, to me, Jokic is the MVP. I think Giannis is probably second. I don't even know who would be third. Like, but I don't think Shea's third. I mean, maybe probably Tatum.
Oklahoma City's Tatum's probably four. I see. I think you go. I think right now it's Jokic, Giannis, Shea, Tatum is probably the way that the Tim Bontemps straw poll or whatever is supposed to be coming out this week. So it'll be interesting to see what that returns. But I think it's got to be Jokic,
I mean,
Giannis, Shea, Tatum.
his efficiency is just ridiculous right now. I
Oh,
just can't see.
there's no question. I mean, what Jokic is doing is completely and utterly ridiculous. Giannis is also averaging a 33 and 12 with I think let's see how many assists and 6 assists. So Giannis is going 33, 12 and 6. So it's not Giannis is nowhere near the passer that Jokic is. Obviously, he's nowhere near the outside shooter that Jokic is, but the sheer physicality of what Giannis does. I mean, he's like a battering ram. He just keeps coming at you and dunking on your head repeatedly over and over again. And I guess when I look at this game, to me, I think what this does is it solidifies that if I'm in my mind, and look, the season has a long way to go. Things could obviously change. If both teams stay in their same approximate position in the standings right now and their statistical profiles stay the same, I don't see how there would be any way that if you were putting a 5-person MVP ballot together, that you would put Shea over Giannis. And part of it is Giannis and the Bucks have a track record. Obviously, Giannis has a 50-point game in a game 7 of the NBA Finals. Shea has not gotten out of the second round as an NBA player. So the resumes of what they've been able to accomplish in their careers really isn't in any way, shape, or form comparable, which is why this game, even though it's a contrived, I don't want to say completely meaningless, but it's it's a pseudo big game. And Giannis obviously came to play with a 26, 19, and 10 triple double. And Shea was certainly far below what he's normally performed, the level that he's normally performed at. So that's all I'm saying is that it's a snapshot when you think about the Embiid Jokic games where Embiid sat out, or then the game in Philly where Embiid put up 50 and theoretically outplayed Jokic the season that he won the MVP. Those one-on-one matchups, even though Giannis and Shea aren't guarding each other, those things still stick in voters' minds when the time comes to cast their ballot or figure out who they're putting where on the top 5. So that's all. That's the only point I was trying to make, is that tonight Giannis was outstanding, and Shea was, for him, very, very pedestrian. And so that's from an individual player standpoint. And then from a team standpoint, Milwaukee, I think, still probably has the same flaws that thought did when they were 2-8, but they've certainly righted the ship to some degree. I don't think they're ever going to really unlock what everybody thought was going to happen with the with the Giannis Dame pick and roll. That just hasn't materialized in any meaningful way. But it does feel like they figured something out, and not just against bad teams, but obviously Oklahoma City is one of the best 2, 3, 4 teams in the entire league, and they took it to them tonight. And part of that still comes down to it's a make or miss league because of the number of threes that everybody's shooting. I mean, when one team goes 5 for 32 and the other team goes 17 for 40, it's not very likely that the team that has 5 threes is going to be able to win that game. But I think Milwaukee showed that at their best, they're capable of competing with the best in the league. And I think that Oklahoma City, they're probably going to win the most games in the West in the regular season. But I think come playoff time, there's probably going to be at least a team or two that you'd probably pick over them to advance to the NBA Finals. At least that's where I sit with these two teams right now. I don't know how you feel about them.
Yeah, I mean, I said my piece on Milwaukee. Oklahoma City, it's going to be a repeat of last year. They're going to have a great regular season, and they're not. And I just don't see them being the Western Conference champion. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it. I think they're too young. And as good as Shea is, I don't know. He still has more to prove in my mind, I guess, that he can carry a team to the finals. And I think that team relies, like, I like Jalen Williams. I think he's a good player. Chet is the guy that I think has to, if they're going to really get to be, I think Chet is in the same position as Mobley, that you need Mobley or Chet in their respective cases for their teams to be a much more impactful offensive player than what both of them have been up until this season. And I know Chet only played 1 year last year and was having an outstanding start to his season. But I just think if Jalen Williams is your second option on offense, I think you can take away Shea and force other guys to beat you. And I'm not sure Oklahoma City has enough offense to get to the finals as constituted. Now, again, if Chet takes another step and continues to grow into being the type of player that he sort of has been for his entire life, where he's been the number one player in his class and at his age for a long, long time, if he develops into that type of go-to scorer and number 2 option, does he have that in him? I don't know. But if he does, I think that's the step that Oklahoma City needs to be able to become a legitimate title contender. And look, they're going to be a number one seed, so I guess you have to call them a legitimate title contender. But I'm with you. I'd be very surprised if Oklahoma City ultimately is the team that represents the Western Conference in the NBA Finals.
All right, from one contrived thing to another. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, Mike. I'm just gonna say that ahead of time.
It's terrible. This is
NBA
terrible.
All-Star Game. They changed the format. I'm gonna read you the press release, or well, not the press release, the bullets point for the team. Mini tournament with 4 teams and 3 games. 24 NBA All-Star selections divided evenly into 3 8-player teams. The 4th team will be the Castro Rising Stars champion. Honorary team general managers, TNT analysts Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny Smith, and Candace Parker. Barkley, O'Neal, and Smith will draft their team rosters from a pool of 24 NBA All-Star selections. Parker is the GM of the Castro Rising Stars champion. 2 teams meet in one semifinal, and the remaining 2 teams meet in the other semifinal. Winning teams from each of those 2 games will face each other in the championship, but the winner of each game is first to reach 40 points. This is the dumbest, idiotic. I don't understand the point. Because, so you're telling me I'm playing game 1, and I'm going to play my game, and then I'm going to sit on my butt for 30 minutes while the other teams are playing and get tight and not play. And then they have to play their game, and then I have to go back out there and play again? That's the first complaint. The second complaint. Listen, if this is what we have to do to make this interesting, let's just cancel the All-Star game. Let's just do the Saturday night stuff, which that's even meh at best at this point, right? I mean, the 3-point contest has been the most intriguing thing the last few years. Although I think the dunk contest was okay last year, right? It was okay.
Last year's dunk contest was okay. It was better than the previous couple of years for sure.
But I don't know. This is just dumb, contrived. Now you're gonna get some NBA players gonna be the last one to be picked, and they're gonna be mad at Shaq, Kenny, and Charles Barkley. So maybe that would be good for TV for them to have conversations and ribbing back and forth. But I mean, I don't know. I don't get this. I don't understand it. I don't understand why. Like, make it make sense, Mike. Please tell me. Make it make sense.
And so here's my thing. If the players approach this in the same way that they've approached the All-Star game, which there's no reason to think that they won't approach it that way, to get to 40, we're talking like 6 minutes. That's going to be like a 6-minute game.
I mean, what team? Here's what I'm going to tell you, Mike. The Rising Stars guys are going to be playing hard.
I agree. Does that motivate NBA players though? Does that motivate?
No, but I'm telling you, I might be looking at all these All-Star players that get voted in and who deserve to be in, and I might be saying, well, we're going to have to do an episode where we're picking who wins the tournament. I might be picking the Rising Star team that I don't even know which team is going to be in it because they're a bunch of young guys who are. I'm assuming there's money involved here, like winning the NBA All-Star game is going to get you more money. So you got the Rising Stars guys who's half of that Rising Stars team isn't making much money. Like they're going to be those guys are going to be motivated.
Is that enough motivation for the All-Stars on the other teams to compete?
I don't want to lose to a bunch of rookies.
I don't want to lose to a bunch of rookies. They're playing hard. Or is it a case where in the locker room before the game, it's a conversation of LeBron is like, hey, man, come on. This is like a walkthrough on the day of a game. Don't be going out there and trying to play hard, man. We're just going out there. This is an exhibition. This is the way we do things here. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I don't know what the answer is. I would be very, very surprised if suddenly this turned into an ultra competitive situation. I guess the only thing I would say that could potentially make it semi-competitive is the fact that it's a shorter version of the game. So maybe if the score is close and it's 30-30 and we've got to play hard for the last 10 points of the game, maybe you get something, but I don't know. I'm old school. I just feel like I remember the heyday of the All-Star game, and not that an All-Star game was ever played at an NBA Finals level of intensity, but it was played where at least it resembled real basketball for 3 quarters. And then in the last 8 minutes, you put the best 10 guys on the floor, and those guys at least competed to some degree, where an individual matchup or a key possession, guys would compete and play hard. And now, over the last few years, other than the one season when they first introduced the Elam ending, I thought that produced a relatively competitive game. But other than that, these games have just been borderline unwatchable. And I've always been a guy that loved watching the All-Star game and felt like, kind of as a contrived thing, that the All-Star game MVP, I feel like, used to mean something back when I was a young adult and a kid. That was
Hey,
sort of an
it
important
meant
honor.
something it meant something in 2013, Mike.
Yeah,
Why did it mean something in 2013, Mike?
I have no idea.
Because Kyrie won it. Was it 2014 or 2013? Then LeBron came back after that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember, but
He saw the light. LeBron saw the light, baby.
saw the light. Well, anyway, like, that used to matter. Like, I used to care who won the All-Star MVP. Now it's just, when there's no defense and it's just guys shooting from 80 feet away, and it doesn't even resemble basketball at this point. And I don't know that the format change is going to make it resemble basketball. Ultimately, it has to come down to, do the players want to compete at all? I don't know the answer to that. It doesn't seem like they do. I don't know that the format will change it. It feels like this whole thing could honestly be over in like an hour, which, I don't know, good, bad, indifferent. I'm not sure how the NBA feels about that. You obviously can't sell as many commercials for a 1 hour game as you can
Oh,
for a
there's
two and
gonna
a
be
half
like,
hour game.
I'm sure there's gonna be some kind of concert in between or some
Oh, I'm sure
nonsense.
there will be. I'm sure there will be. But regardless of that, it's still going to be quick. I mean, the amount of playing that's going to be done so you're going to have 3 games that they have to get to 40. So you're going to have to get to 120. It would be like one game trying to get to 120. I mean, that could be over quick if they don't play hard.
Yeah.
If it takes the turn that the way the game has taken the last couple of years, that whole thing could seriously be over in an hour. So I don't know. Give me East versus West, and hope that eventually you get some guys in there who care and want
Who's
to
the first
compete.
pick?
That's
Who's the
what
first pick, Mike? Who's the first pick? Jokic?
no, not for an All-Star game.
Who's the first pick then? Giannis?
No, Giannis isn't a good
LeBron?
All-Star player.
LeBron,
Giannis
old
isn't
man.
a good. Yeah, Giannis isn't a good All-Star player. I mean, at this point, you want guys who can shoot three. That's so. I don't know. Did you listen to the mismatch today?
No, Mike. I don't have time for that, man. When you think
All right. So they talked about this, that the superstars of the NBA right now are kind of boring. And when you think about it, it's kind of true, right? Because their point was that when you think about NBA superstars, you think about spectacular highlight plays. So if I think of LeBron, if I think of Jordan, if I think of Kobe Bryant, if I think of Magic Johnson, I think of spectacular highlight plays, whether they're dunks, whether they're crazy
Hey, I sent
passes,
you the
whether whatever.
spectacular highlight plays of JaVale McGee's career. Did you watch that? Did you ever watch that, Mike?
No, I don't even.
Come
I don't
on,
even want.
man.
I don't even want to go there. But anyway, so the point is that if you look at what are the exciting Nikola Jokic highlights, if you love passing, maybe, but other than that, there's nothing that Jokic does that you're like jumping out of your
I thought
seat
that
going, "Oh my
3-pointer
god,
that
I
he
can't."
was fading away at the corner that he banked it. That was a pretty cool shot.
It was, but the artistry of Nikola Jokic compared to the artistry of Michael Jordan, I would say, is probably not comparable.
Come on, they are similar ability of athletic prowess. Like,
And look, as great as Giannis is, and as much as I love Giannis, Giannis doesn't necessarily. He's got a lot of battering ram in him and a lot of physicality, but not necessarily plays that are wow plays, if that makes any sense. Luka on the step backs, but a lot of what Luka does is strength and footwork and
I don't know what I've been
craft.
watching from him lately. I wouldn't necessarily call that
Yeah.
strength.
Okay. Right. Well, whatever. The point is that those guys aren't necessarily exciting run up and down athletes that I would associate with the All-Star game. Even Tatum, right? Tatum theoretically, and he was the MVP last year, so maybe Tatum's the first pick. But I don't even think of Tatum as being a prototypical all-star. Like I think of Kyrie Irving as being an all-star. I think of Steph Curry being a great all-star player, a guy who's going to shoot a lot of threes, a guy who's going to get up and down the floor. I
Buddy
think of
Hield,
like an athlete. I don't
Sam
know.
Merrill,
It almost feels like a guard would be the
Donovan
number one
Mitchell,
pick.
Darius Garland.
I don't think Darius. I don't think Darius. Evan Mobley, number one pick. Ja. Ja would be an exciting number one pick, full of highlights.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would get if I had to vote. If I had to, I would probably think Tatum, just because he's last year's MVP and he better fits
Oh,
the
see, I don't
mold
see.
of.
Going back to your point, I couldn't remember. I didn't know who won the MVP last year. Right now, I couldn't have told you that.
It was Tatum. I only know that because I associate Tatum's MVP sort of with the jokiness of the game, that it was a complete farce and Tatum just kept jacking threes and was making them. And so he ended up winning the MVP, not because he was the MVP, but just because he made a ton of shots. I mean, he broke whatever, I forget how many points he had, but it was a ridiculous amount of points. And it just led to continue to point to just the farcical nature of the NBA All-Star game. So I'm going to say Tatum will be the number one pick, but who knows? It'll be funny
I'm going.
to
I'm
hear those
going.
guys
I'm
talk
going to
about it.
say they're going to give respect to the man. Whoever has the first pick is taking LeBron. Whether
It's at. Oh well, you know what? It's also in Golden State this year, so
maybe
Curry's
Steph Curry.
maybe Curry's the number one pick.
So LeBron or Steph, maybe that's probably what's going to
Okay.
happen.
All right,
right,
so
Mike.
I'll give you LeBron and Steph, and I'll take Tatum.
All right, Mike. Do you want to talk about the trade really quickly, and then
Sure.
then we're
2 minutes on the trade, and then we're out. Does
all
it
right.
matter?
I mean, it's interesting, especially after what happened the other night when he was like yelling at Brooklyn. Yeah. Was that Brooklyn or what was it Brooklyn? Or
it was he was yelling at Memphis, I think. He was
Memphis,
yelling at Memphis.
Yeah. That's a little bit of intrigue. It adds a little. Listen,
then Golden State plays Memphis, I think, this coming week, I believe.
So listen, does it matter? I mean, listen, he was instrumental he played great in the Olympics, right? He played awesome in the Olympics. He's played all right so far this year. I mean, is it Schroeder? Is it Schroeder? Is it the guy from Peanuts?
Schroeder is the piano player from Peanuts. Schroeder is the guy who
well,
it
is that time of year, the Christmas.
It is.
Charlie Brown.
Is.
Anyways, he's a good player. I'm not on the point of saying he's a great game changer and great player. But he can definitely do things. Like, he's definitely not a theoretical player. He will do some good things. He will definitely do it. I don't know that he tips the balance in the scales. Listen, who'd they give up, Mike? Who did they give up?
They traded 3 second-round picks and what's the guy's name who's hurt? I'm drawing a blank on who. Uh, oh man.
Speaking
Where'd
while
it
you're
go? Where'd it go?
looking at
Where'd it
that,
go?
did you see that Draymond Green liked to post about from NBA Centel?
I did
He
not
got
see that.
about Podziemski stop playing really terrible basketball or something.
Oh, Pajemski, yeah.
Podziemski, yeah.
Pajemski's been pretty bad.
He did fix his hair nicely on that one possession, though. Did you see that?
He did.
He,
He did. Yeah. He's yeah. I don't know. I didn't really love him last year, and I continue to not love him very much this year. Where I and now I'm just on a mission to find the um, as soon as I hear it, it's not Monty Morris, but it's a guy just like Monty Morris.
hold on. Shams. Just go to Shams' Twitter account.
D'Anthony Melton. Sorry, D'Anthony Melton.
I
So
would have never come up with that name.
D'Anthony Melton.
I would not have
Anyway,
come.
so and here's what I'll say about Schroeder. Schroeder's a good player, and as you mentioned, he's had a lot of success internationally
He
over
is
the
good
last
at the
couple of
piano.
years. And there you go. He's very good at banging out some Christmas tunes for Charlie Brown. He's been good for the Nets, and that's the reason why the Nets wanted to get rid of him because he was helping them win too many games. I think that he helps the Warriors in a sense of they have a very Jokic like on off with Steph. I think I read today that with Steph on the floor, they're at like 119 per 100 possessions, and with him off the floor, they're at like 101. So that's a pretty big drop off when Steph has to sit. So I think when you talk about bringing in Schroeder to play those minutes when Steph is off the floor, to me that makes sense. I'm not sure again how much sense those two guys make on the floor together. Now, look, in the regular season, it's fine. Schroeder's an upgrade. He makes them better. Schroeder and Curry can play together in the regular season all they want. When it comes to playoff basketball, I'm not sure if you are fancying yourself, and I don't think that Golden State giving them truth serum. I don't think they really feel like the roster they have now is in any way, shape, or form legitimately capable of contending for an NBA title. But certainly the Schroeder Curry backcourt is one that could be picked upon in a playoff series. So I don't think that Schroeder changes their playoff trajectory other than the fact that he may help them win more regular season games and potentially get a higher seed. So I think it's a good trade. They didn't give up much because Melton's out for the season with a torn ACL, and you gave those 3 second round picks. I think there's still a lot of speculation that Golden State might try to go after a bigger fish, possibly Jimmy Butler, and that this trade didn't preclude them from doing that because they probably still would have to include one or more of their young guys, meaning Kuminga, Moody, Pajemski, in a deal to try to get Butler. And then I forget what other draft equity that Golden State still has, but I know that from reading and listening that there still is the possibility that they could, given the right circumstances, still go out and get Butler. Although I'm not sure that anything that Golden State has would be super interesting to me if I was Pat Riley and the Miami Heat. So it remains to be seen. But I think the trade for Schroeder is a good one in a sense of I think it probably makes them better in the regular season. It gives them a playmaker, a ball handler that can be on the floor when Steph is off. I'm not sure that those two guys playing together makes a ton of sense at any point, but certainly in the playoffs, I don't think it raises their ceiling because I just don't think you can play those two guys together against a good team.
I agree. Listen, whatever. I don't like you said, I don't think he tips the scales.
There we go.
And
Answer
that's
is
it.
complete. All right. So we tried to fix the NBA Cup. I'm not sure we could or did. The NBA tried to fix the All Star game. I'm not sure they could or did. And the Golden State Warriors tried to fix their team and make it better. And I'm not sure could or they did. So anyway, that is the end of our NBA pod for tonight. The next time we talk, we may end up, because of the way that Christmas falls on a Wednesday and therefore Christmas Eve is a Tuesday, which is our normal recording night. We were talking about maybe trying to do something on Sunday night. So we shall see when our next NBA podcast comes your way, but we will have a regular scheduled episode as normal on Thursday night. So be ready to check that out. We appreciate you listening tonight, and we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks. All right.
All right.
Do it. We'll do it. So,
All right. I'm going to bed. I've got
sounds
another long day. I'm going to Amherst tomorrow, so I won't be home until 9:00 tomorrow. So.
all right, there you go. Well, I'm gonna get up on Thursday morning and drive to Nashville. So
All by yourself?
yeah, all by myself. Yeah, yeah. So
Legendary, Mike. You gotta go legendary.